This is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, where we review movies. Love them or hate them, someone's got to do it. So enjoy the show. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks and anything else that gets in the mix. And I am here today with Chris from Cinematic Anarchy. Hello.
Oh, I threw in the hay there a little too soon. Sorry.
That's okay. We're not professional or anything.
I try not to interrupt, though. I really do.
It's all right. No problems. So we are here to celebrate. I'm going to let you do it because your Arnold is better than my Arnold. So we're here to celebrate
the grand month of Octoberlavista Baby.
I'm so excited. So are we going to watch all three movies and then like jingle all the way? Like, what are we going to do for the other one? Or is there 4 of them?
Oh, there's 6 of them.
There's 6 of them?
There's 6 films.
Was he in all 6?
Yes, he was in every one of them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
So, let's see. There's Terminator, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. There's Rise of the Machines. Actually, I don't know if he was in Salvation. Salvation's the one with Christian Bale, where he got called out for like screaming at people. Then there's Terminator Genesis, and I'm trying to remember the name of the last one, even though I kind of liked it.
So as we were watching this movie last night, I go, you know what? I have not seen this movie. I know I'm pretty sure I've seen number 2 many times, and I think that's my favorite one. But I realized very quickly that I don't think I've ever seen the original because I didn't understand any of it. I didn't remember this whole part about Kyle Reese. I had no idea what was going on the entire time. So it was like a brand new movie for me.
It's been so long since I've actually seen this movie. I didn't realize that Terminator 2 actually pulled a few of its catchphrases from this movie. So the whole come with me if you want to live thing was actually originally uttered by Kyle Reese, which threw me.
Yes. I actually have that in my notes. I was like, oh, wow. Who knew? I mean, I guess they do. I didn't know.
And of course, his famous line first uttered here, I'll be back.
Yeah. I made a note of that too. I was like, wait a minute. That's so cool. So the reason why I wanted to do this movie is I listened to True Crime and Cocktails. And they were talking about this movie. And they kept saying something about how he was sent back, and was he sent back to sleep with her so John Connor would be born. And I was like, oh, what are they talking about? And they had this whole discussion, one episode. Well, then fast forward like a week or 2 later, and she's like, I have an update. She goes, my wonderful boyfriend got me tickets to go see a showing of Terminator. And I guess because it must have been the 40th year. And they actually had one of the writers of the movie at the premiere or at the showing. And they did a Q&A afterwards. And she answered a lot of questions that people had. And that was one of the questions. And I was like, that sounds awesome. We should watch this movie and talk about it. And then because I was, some reason, I always thought, I guess the second one was the first one. That's the only one I remember. But it was not. And I didn't know that Arnold was a bad guy.
Right. I sat down and actually watched this movie with my wife last night, and she was thoroughly confused. Because she's sitting here and she's watching this film and she's like, isn't Arnold supposed to be the good guy in
right?
this? I go, no. The first time around, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, like, other incarnations, yeah, he does come back and he's the good guy and he's the one trying to save the world. But this one film, he was the bad guy the entire way through.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I did not know that.
The good guy is the one over there, the one that got sent back by his son to make sure his mommy got pregnant.
Yeah.
That's
So I actually, I'm pretty sure if I understood it correctly, they said that Arnold was supposed to play Kyle Reese. And he was at a dinner with the two writers or producers. And he kept talking about the Terminator and all the different things that the Terminator should do. And they're like, so I guess you want to play that part? And so that's how that was done.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, originally for the Terminator, they wanted Chuck Norris.
What?
And Chuck Norris turned down the part because he really felt that a lot of what the Terminator was about fell more into Arnold Schwarzenegger's court than him.
That is so random. Chuck Norris. I couldn't imagine.
I could not imagine the redheaded cowboy as the Terminator.
But you know what? His lore of being able to kick some ass would be even bigger if he had played that part.
I'm imagining there's like a multiverse somewhere where he actually picked up the role. And we have an entire like series of films that Arnold should have been in that now is starring Chuck Norris.
So it's kind of like when the other team loses a Super Bowl and they send those shirts to another country and they think that that team won. Is that the... So there's just like a whole world where people think Chuck Norris was Terminator.
Chuck Norris is the Terminator. Yeah, he's got the entire franchise.
I gotta say,
but I think this is what started a lot of like his stardom, if I'm not mistaken. Like he started landing roles left and right because people loved him in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't look the same in this movie. Obviously he started out naked and I was like, oh, that's an idea. Okay. And then when Kyle Reese came down and he was naked, I was like, what is happening? I was like, how many are these they're gonna be? And my dad's like, just the two. I was like, oh, okay. All right.
There was a lot of butt very early in the movie. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of, so we have Naked Arnold, right? This is in, well, first of all, 2029, where the future is for them, is 5 years away.
Yeah, we're 5 years away from the Terminators taking over the world. Skynet just taking us down.
And you know what's crazy is that I go like watching it and watching the scenes where they're in the future. I was like, if prices keep soaring, that's what it's gonna look like, because no one's gonna be able to afford anything, and we're just gonna be a whole bunch of homeless people just walking around.
We're nowhere close to having Terminators, though. We can barely perfect drones.
We have AIs, though. So there's that.
Yeah, I suppose. I know there's a place where you can... I was seeing advertisements for it. I'm not sure if it was on TikTok or if it was on Snapchat, but there were advertisements. This guy was just happily saying, yeah, he goes, I don't go out and do anything, basically. I sit at home and I call my AI app and I have a conversation with it. This is what I'm doing with my life.
Oh, that's sad.
Sometimes I forget it's not a human being. And I'm like, that's really sad, man.
Yeah. I wonder what he's doing on the line while he's talking to that person. Is it a girl or is it a guy? Because
I actually don't want that backstory at all.
Because we all know if it's a girl, what's going on. Just saying.
We know what the guys are doing with the AI app.
Yeah, creepy. God,
this is why we have the
so
NSFW
creepy.
filters in place.
Yeah, so So we have Naked Arnold. And if you see I don't know how tall he is, what, 6'4", 6'5", give or take. You see a giant naked man that is like probably more buff than you'll ever be in your life. Do you really think you step to him?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming we're talking about the little punks in the beginning of the movie, played by Bill Paxton, and I'm trying to remember the other fellow's name. Brian Thompson. Brian Thompson is about his size.
Yeah, Bill Paxton. I didn't recognize him at all.
Well, the tire treads take a little away from the face, and what I'm assuming is black Sharpie to make him look like he has a gap in his teeth. Because it caught the light at one point. I'm like, oh no, that's like black Sharpie. They like colored his tooth. But I think maybe Bill's character, the punk character, felt a little bit more comfortable stepping to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Because he had his buddy who was about his size, like right next to him.
Maybe.
The one who moments later has some kind of a Mortal Kombat moment and has his heart ripped out of his chest.
I just feel like it's 1:52 a.m. A insanely buff, tall, angry-looking man that's naked is coming towards you and you decide to step to him. I'd be like, let's get out of here. I don't know what is about to happen.
I'm having a laugh after the fact. I'm not gonna poke. Like I'm not gonna question why Mr. Universe over here is walking around naked. He says he wants my clothes. Okay, I'm assuming there's a good reason. Here you go.
I would just give it to him because he looks crazy.
Just a little. And he doesn't look happy either.
No, he didn't.
Not even remotely.
You know, he rips the heart out of this guy, right? And the cops, there's no cops going after him. But then we have the other naked guy, and he just takes some pants from a homeless man, and all of a sudden there's cops everywhere. And those alleys are disgusting. I was like, this is in LA, right? You would think it was New York by the way their alleys were just trash everywhere. Our alleys in Texas don't look like that.
I do question the idea of taking a homeless man's pants to the point that when he was running away from the cops after stealing the homeless man's pants, I guess the shadows of him running away might have played tricks on my eyes, and I'm sitting here like I had to stop it back. Did this homeless man actually shit his pants?
Yeah, it did look like there was some spots on his pants.
Oh, the homeless man pants are probably the last thing you want to try to steal.
Yeah,
I'd run around naked for a few extra minutes trying to find something else.
Yeah, I was like, of all the people, you stole his pants? Ugh.
Well, it's the first one there.
Sorry, unhoused. We should
unhoused,
say that.
yes,
unhoused.
We have to be politically correct.
When did that become a thing? I just heard it one day and I was like, what?
I'm not sure if it was a PR move just to kind of soften the blow of the idea they are unhoused. No, they're homeless. They have no home. Unhoused assumes that it assumes the same thing. It's just supposed to sound nicer, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it does, actually.
What is the difference between unhoused and homeless? Why are we trying to transfer over to that now?
Well, it's like the first time we were watching HGTV and they said primary bedroom. And we're like, primary bedroom? Instead of the master bedroom. Because they used to say that all the time. And now they don't say that anymore, which is fine. But I was like, primary bedroom? Who says that? I don't know.
Nobody. They're trying to start a new thing.
They are. Unhoused. He's an unhoused man.
I doubt that I have hurt any of the unhoused folks' feelings by saying the word homeless.
And Arnold, he was unclothed man. He was not
An
naked.
unclothed man, not naked, yes.
He's unclothed.
If you are unhoused, then you are unclothed in this situation. This is not nudity. This is just unclothed.
Yes, unclothed. I'm not trying to make fun or poke holes or anything. I just thought it was funny.
No.
I'll probably cut that out.
Hey, I don't edit, so I
don't
know what
like to
cutout
be
means.
political.
I don't think it's a political thing. I just think it's a feelings-based thing. I think you're trying to make folks feel a little bit better about what is potentially a very difficult situation. And some people are unhoused by choice.
Yeah.
Some people are unhoused because of deeply unfortunate financial circumstances. Mm-hmm. I've been in this is tough for me to say repetitively, the unhoused position before. And with one of my children attached. And I decided I never wanted to do that again. Yeah. And I have not. But I know some people don't have it quite as easy, and it's very difficult for them to get back to having a roof over their heads. For us, it was a situation of just one thing after another. It wasn't something that just happened suddenly. It was just sort of, we got ourselves into a situation where we were both working and we did not have a lot of money to begin with. And so it's like, okay, well, it becomes a choice. Do you pay your rent? Do you pay your electric bill? Do you pay this? And you start going in the round. One falls to the wayside one month, the next month another falls to the wayside, and you're just putting patches on things, trying to keep things afloat, hoping that your financial situation gets better. Yeah. Until finally the dam breaks and all the water comes through, and then you can't do anything about it anymore. You just got to pick up and rebuild.
And that's why, like, apartment living sucks, because it's not cheap. It's not cheap to live in an apartment.
No.
And then you're not gaining anything by doing that, you know? So you're paying all this money and you're getting nothing from it. And they can raise the rent whenever they want to. And it's a bunch of bullshit.
I think abolishing rent control was probably one of the few things that our country did that really screwed some things over.
Well, that's because people that have a lot of money had owned apartments, owned apartment buildings. And they're like, well, I need more money, so let's get rid of this rent control.
To stand on the side of the slumlords for 2 seconds, it comes to a point where I understand rent control kind of being taken away, because if you're paying like a set, like deeply cheap price for your apartment, and the costs on the repairs for said apartment keep going up and up and up, but you're not paying any more into it. At some point, there's a breaking point where the landlord can no longer afford to fix the property, because the amount of money coming in does not provide to be able to continue to fix this large building.
True.
So I understand raising the rent because, you're paying for the water for the building, and you're paying for the repairs for the building and the lawn maintenance and yada, yada, yada. And at some point that's going to go up. And I understand raising the rent for that reason. But now what we have are people just raising the rent because, hey, you know what? I just need more money.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the biggest problem is that property taxes go up. And so like my house, it's gone up way more. And I'm like, we haven't added square footage. We haven't added any land. We haven't added anything. And yet our property is more valuable than it was before. For what fucking reason? There's no reason for that. It's just because there's less land. So that makes our property a little bit more viable. So now our, property taxes go up. So I can understand why they would have to raise rent because of that, but they don't have to raise it the way that they raise it. And the starting point is ridiculous. Like they're paying more than my mortgage. It's like, what? Why?
That's excessive.
Yeah, it's insane. Okay, back to this movie.
We are talking about the Terminator, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so this is my only sticking point in most of this movie. I think they could have done this better. and it kind of bothered me. So we
Okay.
see Kyle Reese go to a phone book, and he looks through it and finds that there are three Sarah Connors. And then the very next scene, we see a girl on a moped driving to work. She clocks in, and they had to show that her name was Sarah Connor. Now, we should have surmised that her name was Sarah because we just saw that he saw three Sarahs. And we should know that it's her, the main one, because, you know, she's a girl. And we just talked about a girl. They didn't have to show her name card. They could have just said, "Hey, Sarah," or some, like where her friend could have come up and like said something, or she could have put her name tag on or whatever. Like,
Right.
Just showing the card. I thought, come on, we could have done this better.
I mean, they could have even left it for that one scene right after the first Sarah Connor is killed by the Terminator.
Yeah.
They could have left it for that one scene where her friend just comes up behind her and it's like, "You're dead, honey."
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that.
Because at that point, you definitively know she's Sarah Connor. But I guess they just wanted us to know immediately.
Yeah. I was like, come on, save her. Just a little.
You could have left us in the dark for a few minutes. I had a couple of problems with this movie, but like then I started thinking about it. I'm like, it's 1984, so you really can't gripe about the animatronics too much or the weird, what I'm assuming was stop motion scene, like near the end of the movie.
Yeah, that whole I wonder if that part was added later because it didn't have the same feel as the rest of the movie.
No, it's possible. Well, I'm thinking he was added later, like the Terminator itself, like the I guess robotic skeleton.
Yeah.
Or cybernetic skeleton, I guess that's what we're trying to go with here. Very
weird and off-putting. Just because like the rest of the movie, there was some, explosions and other creatures running around and things like that. And it looked real. But that was just like, womp womp.
Yeah, I think like a lot of those scenes that they had to put him in makeup, there was an entire scene where you could tell that they used some sort of puppetry. The scene where he's taking his eye out.
Yeah.
They used some sort of, I don't know if it was a puppet or whatever with animatronics in it that made me feel like I was watching some demented scene from a backlot Disney movie.
Yeah, there was a scene where he was in the car and he was doing something and I go, he does not look like him. He just looked real weird and very pale. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, there were a couple scenes like where the makeup either felt excessive, or it just didn't fit. It kind of messed with his hair a little bit.
Yeah,
I did get a little bit of joy out of watching him drive around a good 50% of the movie without eyebrows.
I didn't notice that.
He had no eyebrows, especially during some of the driving scenes. I'm not
That's
sure if it was
why
like
he looked weird.
That burnt off some of the hair, but left the hair on his head or something, but his eyebrows were gone.
I wonder if that's why, because I was like, man, he looks so weird. Why does he look different?
I want to know if they just used like latex patches or if they legitimately asked him to shave his eyebrows off.
Who knows?
Like, look, Arnold, we're going to be putting all sorts of prosthetics on you and so on and so forth. These hairs are going to get ripped out anyway. Just shave them off.
Yeah, just shave them, sir.
We'll explain it somehow.
Yeah. Oh, and I decided that thank God we don't really have phone books anymore. Where it just has our name and our address.
I remember phone books.
Me too.
I think they still deliver like a yellow pages to our apartment building, but they don't have like the phone books with everybody's personal information in it anymore.
Right. I mean, it's so easy to find online anyways, but it's a little harder than it is just to grab a phone book and look through it and be like, oh, hey.
Well, I think that's sort of a testament to how few people actually have a landline anymore. It's no point to doing it at all. Everybody used to have a landline attached to their house. Now they have telephones, I know some people that moved into Massachusetts and still have their telephone number from whatever state they were in beforehand.
As soon as I moved to Texas, I got a new number.
Can you imagine how often you'd have to update the white pages just to keep up with all the cell phones and how often people change their numbers?
Oh, yeah. Or,
burner.
Yeah, dear God, if we had a cell phone white pages, oh.
Okay. The cellular white pages brought to you by whatever confusion this is. Then you'd have to get all the telephone companies to actually work with each other too.
Right. Yeah, I was just like, oh, good God, that's a good reason why we don't do that anymore. So people can't just be like, oh, this is their address. Cool.
Oh, yeah. People were so much easier to stalk back then.
Exactly. I remember one time I was working at Walgreens and I had to get a phone book out and someone's like, what's that? I was like, it's a phone book. They're like, why?
What's a phone book?
What's a phone book? That's weird.
Like, that whole thing. People talking about what the hell is a phone book? I've never seen a rotary dial phone before. It reminds me of the one scene in the movie where they're getting ready to make plastic explosives and she's going through pulling everything out of the box.
Yeah.
Right? Like ammonia and mothballs. And she's like, hey, what are we making for dinner? And he's like, plastique. She goes, ooh, sounds yummy. I'm like sitting here like, what? Yeah. Like, what is that?
Yeah. And I was like, he didn't buy any food.
Like, I get she was kind of poking that he didn't buy food and what the hell are we going to eat?
Yeah.
And he's all serious like we're making explosives. By the way, those smoke bombs that he called plastique were awful.
Yeah. But it did its job, I guess.
Well, once it did its job. The other, 8 that he threw at him were just like smoke bombs that hit the ground. That one exploded.
Well, okay. So he said that, okay, now we have 6 more to make. So that means to me they had 7. I'm pretty sure he threw more than that many.
I think so.
Because I'm pretty sure the last one he did when they were in the car before it flipped over was the 6th one. And I was like, oh, so he's out. And then I remembered, oh, he said we have 6 more to do, which means they had 1 more. So then he did the last one. And I was like, okay, cool. That's it. And then all of a sudden he had another one. I was like, what is happening? Liar.
Let's assume for 5 seconds that these are legitimately pipe bombs that didn't work.
Yeah.
All right. First of all, they've decided the best time to throw these pipe bombs is while they're driving through a tunnel.
Yeah.
Which to me just seems doubly dumb.
I thought that was stupid too.
But on top of which, the one, when he finally gets shot and he drops it right next to the car and it goes off, if that was legitimately a pipe bomb, that side of the car would be, at least the tires and the axle would be gone.
Yeah.
And they just kept driving. So
yep.
I'm thinking they didn't do a lot of pipe bomb research before this movie.
It seemed more like a smoke bomb than a pipe bomb.
Yeah, they went, well, except for that last one.
Yeah. Which is weird.
So I'm not sure if they made 2 different types. Like, were they intending to make a smoke bomb out of 6 of them, and then the 7th one was just supposed to be the one that he takes the Terminator out with?
Yeah.
Or the lower half of the Terminator, anyway.
Who knows? I don't know. It was very weird.
I would say a lot of this movie was very weird.
That's true.
They do a lot of little body horror moments. I think everybody's kind of squeamish when they see somebody trying to pick out their eye.
Oh, yes. Oh, I watched that with one squinted eye.
Yeah, just pulling out his own eyeball. That seems...
Though, I gotta tell you, anytime I've ever had allergies, if I could just pull my eyeballs out and wash them off and put them back in, I've thought that that would be a good idea. until you watch that. Then you're like, "Gah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that."
Yeah. It would be nice. You could just take them out, set them aside, clean them for a little bit.
Yeah. Brush them,
Yeah.
you know.
Kind of like those creatures in the labyrinth where they can take their own eyeballs out and just kind of walk around with them.
Ooh. I've seen the labyrinth. I don't remember that, but
There was those creatures in the middle of the labyrinth. They could disconnect all of their parts.
oh,
Like
creepy.
their arms could come off and their legs could come off and their heads could come off and they took out their eyes and were holding. It was weird.
Interesting.
It's a creepy thing to have in a Jim Henson kids movie, but
Yeah.
it was played up for comedic value when they started like pulling off limbs and knocking off other limbs, and you're all like, "Oh, these are just felt creatures. These are all detachable and interchangeable." Okay.
So
Laugh at this and-
my sister said that the Terminator, he's a shoot first, ask questions later. Well, not really ask questions later. When he sees the first Sarah Connor, he's just like, "Are you Sarah Connor?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Pah, pah, pah." And then
Well.
when he comes in and kills the roommate, he just
He didn't ask questions that time.
no. Yeah.
The first time it was ask questions, shoot last, and then it was shoot first and don't even bother asking questions.
Yeah. And if she
Are we
just
sure we
hadn't-
got the right person? No.
if she just hadn't called her damn self and left a message, she would have been fine. He may not have known. Everything would have been great.
So here's a question.
Uh-huh.
Knowing what we know about this movie after watching it, knowing that Kyle Reese is essentially the father of John Connor,
Yeah.
would it have been more effective for them to just kill Kyle Reese before he went back?
Okay, so we actually talked about that while we were watching the movie. So the most effective thing to do is just go back in time and stop Sarah's parents from having Sarah.
Right.
That would have been the best thing because then none of this would have happened.
But then it
yeah.
couldn't have taken place in the 80s.
True. But they could have, they could have killed Kyle Reese. That would have been a thing. But yeah, I don't know. How does her photo end up in the future with him and then he goes back? Who knows? I guess.
I think it would have been interesting to just kind of push that point with the films. Like as they go further into the film franchise, they keep going further back in time, trying to okay, we're going to try to kill Sarah Connor's parents. Okay, that didn't work. So now we're going to try to kill Sarah Connor's parents and just keep moving back.
Well, obviously the Connors are just like really with it people and can kick some ass, clearly.
Well,
If
she
that's
ended
the
up
case.
kicking serious ass by the second movie. In this particular film, it was more of a, I don't know, she was forced into the situation. You get the first sense of her being Terminator 2's Sarah Connor when she starts yelling at Kyle Reese, "Get on your feet, soldier!"
Yes, I love that part. It's just, God damn it, get on your feet. Yeah.
So when she starts playing up the badass part of herself, that's when I kind of get into Linda Hamilton's character. I really didn't like her most of the film, to be honest.
Well, because she wasn't the Linda Hamilton that you know. You know, she was the demure and scared and shaky Sarah Connor instead of her badass Sarah Connor in the next one.
She's kind of what she was in several of her roles back then, and she didn't really. I don't know. Was it Beauty and the Beast where she started kind of getting a hard edge to her, while still sort of being a bit soft and demure?
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. That was a good TV show.
Oh, I didn't
Am I
see it.
bringing up something you haven't watched?
I guess not.
They had two versions of it. The most recent one had Kristen Curick in it, I believe, the girl who played Lana Lang from
Oh,
Smallville.
yeah. Okay.
But the original version was Linda Hamilton playing the lead role. And of course, I'm bringing up the wrong information here altogether.
When I think of Beauty and the Beast, I think of the Disney movie. So I was like, she's in that?
No, not at all. No, this was a 1988 television show. I think it came out after this had started. I might have gotten the role in it because of this, but Ron Perlman played the Beast.
Oh, okay.
For the most part.
Yeah, my sister said that. What was I going to say? I don't really care anymore. But yeah, she started to come into her own towards the end. And then that made so the photo that they take, that is how they should have done her appearance in the movie. How he has that photo of her and clearly it's later on in the film because she looks different. And then the reveal of when the photo was taken, that was epic. But her looking at her timing card, I was like, that's cheap. Come on.
No, I mean, I think they pulled off the ending to the movie decently.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a few hiccups in the build-up.
Yeah.
But I can forgive a lot of it because they perfected it with T2, even if they kind of fell apart as they moved through the rest of the series.
Yeah, the question is, did they know exactly, when they sent Kyle back, did they know exactly when she was going to be ovulating? Because the timing of that, she could have been on the rag. There could have been lots of different reasons. She could have been on the pill. Maybe didn't get off the pill early enough. But to just nail it the first time.
I imagine John knew the entire time, but didn't tell Kyle why he was sending him back.
Yeah.
I believe, because he said that at one point, John Connor had given him this picture of his mother, and he had no idea why. He's like, I had no clue why he gave me this picture.
Yeah.
I think after all the stories Sarah must have told her son while he was growing up about his father, it stuck in his head.
Oh.
And so now he's like, okay, well, because I know that I have to send him back at this point to make sure that my mother is safe. So he had all the information in his head. He knew when to send him back because it's just completing that circle. If he had never sent him back, he would have been vaporized from existence on the spot.
Okay, but if he hadn't gone back yet, how was he ever born in the first place? Because Kyle didn't live there in that time.
One of those time traveling paradoxes.
Oh my God, that is exactly what I put in my notes. That's exactly what I put.
Like, what would have happened if Sarah had mistakenly told him something else, gave him a little bit of misinformation, forgot parts of the story, and things didn't fall into place like they should have, and now John is like, okay, well, I'm going to send you back 1 day earlier or 1 day later.
Yeah.
It had to have been perfect timing.
My dad and sister came up with the chicken or the egg. That's what they decided. Did the chicken come first or the egg come first? And I said it's more like Back to the Future. Like, which happened first? Because, he had to send him back or he wouldn't exist, which is very like Marty. If he doesn't get his parents together, he doesn't exist. But they told me I was wrong. It's okay.
Yeah, the big difference between, I think, Marty's situation and this situation is, I think, just information.
Yeah.
Information provided to the lead character. Because I don't think Marty had any real information when he went back and he accidentally interfered in what was supposed to be his own birth. Or his, not his birth, but his conception.
Yeah.
Whereas I think because of the circumstances, it was drilled into her head that she had to pass this information on. It's like, okay, so Kyle came back and I am now pregnant with you because he came back. So if I don't pass on certain information, this is not going to happen.
Yeah. Maybe Sarah knows the whole time after that, Maybe she's just real with it. She's a real with it kind of girl.
Not to step on the second movie, which we may end up talking about, but I think that's the reason why she's in the insane asylum in the second movie.
Yeah, they were talking about that when they had the doctor on this one. They're like, oh, is this why they think she goes crazy? And I was like, she goes crazy? They're like, yeah.
Same doctor.
Like, I don't remember that.
It's the same doctor from this film in the next film. And so I think that because she has all this information on the future and nobody fucking believes her, in spite of the fact that there should have been some evidence left behind by the flattening of the Terminator.
Well, and also, he comes into the police station shooting up everywhere. You're telling me that no one believed her after that?
Well, he looked human. So at that point, nobody could tell that he was a robot or a Terminator.
But
so anybody that might have seen him in his half decimated form got killed.
But he still was insanely coming after her, like even if you didn't really believe her, you'd be like, well, there is a dude coming after her clearly. And he looks like a giant, like something we've never seen before. Maybe we believe her a little bit.
Well, the naivety of one of the police officers played by Lance Henriksen, he said it best, basically saying, well, the guy could have been on crack or PCP or whatever. You don't feel anything. So even if people are shooting at you, you might not even feel that. So they're basically trying to explain it away with what rationality their brains have because they don't quite believe in her future story. Like, this guy came from the future to save me from a robot from the future.
I actually kind of think that Kyle was less credible in the interrogation. Like, I wouldn't believe him. He did seem like he was on drugs. But she seemed pretty with it, And the fact that two other Sarahs died.
She didn't fully believe it herself either, though.
Well, no, but the fact that someone was coming after her and killed two other Sarah Connors, you don't think that seems weird? Like, why would they want to kill all these Sarah Connors? Like, it makes more sense than it doesn't make sense.
Definitely weird, but who do you run off with at that point? The entire, precinct full of cops who don't believe what's going on and subsequently all get killed, or the guy that's trying to save her and run away from the thing?
Well, yeah, of course. For her, it makes sense to go with Kyle, but I'm just saying as a cop, she seems more credible than he does. Why wouldn't you believe her?
Well, she doesn't fully believe the situation herself. They're trying to convince her that he's nuts.
Well, I understand that, but the fact is that there is someone after her. You may not believe it's a robot, but there is someone after her for no reason that they know of, and killed two other Sarah Connors. So obviously, you should at least believe that part. And when he comes in, storms blazing, doesn't get hurt at all by all the bullets shot at him, maybe you should believe her.
The serial killer with a Sarah Connor fixation.
Yeah.
A very specific serial killer.
As a fellow Sarah, it's a little frightening.
I think they might go a little further in the other film. We'll get to talking about that when we watch it. But if I'm not mistaken, I think they go a little further with trying to explain away all the events of this movie.
Yeah.
As with rational explanations, trying to make her feel like she's nuts.
Yeah.
Even though she knows full well what's going on.
So in the next one, it's set. Did they do it years apart? Because I know that Arnold's older, and she's older, and they have a teenage kid, right? Or is that the third one?
I believe that's the second one. Yeah, so she has a teenage son at this point who's basically pretty much disowned her because he thinks she's as crazy as the people that have her in the nut house believe she is.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It was done in 91, so almost 10 years later.
So yeah, I would give it. Well,
So that makes
yeah, I guess
more
that wouldn't
sense.
really give you enough time for the kid to have grown up, would it have?
No. They're pushing limits with their timelines. Because I know he's
Yeah,
much
that's
older,
true.
but he's not like 18. He's more like
No,
13,
he's like
right?
14, 15, I
Yeah,
think, and
something like that.
he's a kid on a moped. Did they say what year specifically this film was supposed to have taken place? Like
Yeah, it was 1984. Which is funny because he's younger than me, but I think in these movies he's older than me when we see him again. So
yeah, so he's not 7 years old,
no, which he should be, but he's
which
not.
is strange.
Yeah.
They didn't give him a lot of time to grow up, I believe.
So I wonder if it's set in the future in that one, because it's not in this one.
I imagine it has to be set slightly in the future.
Yeah, because again, it should be. He should only be like 7.
They set it in 1995.
Okay, well, but
which
still,
is still weird because he's supposed to be 10 years old and he does not look 10.
no, he's way older than 10.
So I'm trying to, that's going to really bother me.
Yes, yeah. When we watch it, that's gonna bug me too. Now knowing that, because I should be older than him.
That doesn't make any sense. He does not play a 10-year-old very well. I'll give Edward Furlong a lot of things, but not playing a 10-year-old in that movie.
Yeah, no.
Not at all.
Though maybe when we watch it, we're like, God, he's a little bratty, just like a little kid.
So, when we watch it, we'll discuss a lot of that when we get to that. We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
One thing in this movie that I thought was interesting that you don't see anymore is cops lining up in the office. And I was like, oh, that doesn't happen in movies nowadays.
Yeah, 1984 when indoor smoking was still legal.
Yeah. Ugh.
So, that was a ways back. When did they make indoor smoking illegal?
I don't know. I know when I moved here to Texas, it was still allowed in restaurants, but you had to be on there was a smoking section and a non-smoking section. And within, I don't know, the last 15, 20 years, they banned it altogether.
July 5th, 2004, smoking was banned in workplaces, restaurants, and bars.
Oh, well, there we go.
It was a $100 fine for violating it and a $300 fine for business owners allowing it. So, yeah. 2004.
Well, there we go. I love that she's a badass in the future, but she says, I can't even balance my checkbook. What a 1984 problem. That
she's
is
so naive and disorganized in this movie.
Yeah.
She really is. But she also has this feeling of just having just gotten out on her own. Like she may have just moved out and is trying to make her way and hasn't quite figured herself out yet.
She was very Meg Ryan in that scene where they're getting ready to go out and she's like giggling and laughing on the phone. Like, it was so lighthearted and fun. And you don't see that side of her in the rest of the movies. And so it's just so fun. And then you're like, oh, that's going to go away.
There's this whole scene in the movie that kind of bothered me a little bit.
Which one?
And I don't know if it didn't bother me because of the I guess the prosthetics they must have used for this particular scene, but we were talking about how bad some of the makeup was.
Yeah.
1984, so there's only so much you can do. Okay, I give him that. There's this whole scene where I don't know if it was the super for the hotel that the Terminator's staying in.
Yeah.
He's knocking on the door, trying to come in and clean or whatever.
He's like, fuck you.
The entire time you're cutting back and forth between this poor schlub in the hallway trying to get in and the Terminator who's reading through her diary or her address book or whatever, trying to find her. And they keep doing these close-ups with these unmoving flies on his face. And so he has like one on his forehead and one on his cheek, and it keeps like moving back and forth. But the fly itself doesn't move. It just kind of moves from scene to scene.
Yeah. I never noticed that.
Now when you go back and watch the movie again, or if you watch it again, you'll notice it.
Yeah. I was just so taken aback by the shirtless man. I was like, what is he doing? And then I was like, oh, he's a janitor. But at first I was like, what's happening?
He kind of reminded me a little bit of Rocky's buddy in the oh God, I'm forgetting names of very popular movies.
That's okay.
I know it's just Rocky's buddy. It's Adrian's, I guess, brother.
He did look familiar. I just couldn't like pinpoint what I've seen him in.
Paulie. But he looked very familiar. He looked a lot like Paulie from Rocky.
Yeah.
He kind of had the same attitude with smoking the I think that was a cigar, not a cigarette. Just trying to get in to do his job. He's like, they don't pay me enough for this shit.
Right.
I'm just trying to clean your place, man. Don't cuss at me.
Fuck you. I was so taken aback by that. I was like, he just said that?
Well, of course. I mean, what other interaction are you going to have? I'm surprised he didn't just go out into the hallway, shoot the guy, and then go back to his business.
Right.
Fuck you was the best response he could have given right there. How do I get him to go away quickly? Fuck you.
Fuck you. Oh, anytime they had people mimicking him, or he was mimicking other people, I was like, that is not his voice.
Not at all. It doesn't, in this movie, it doesn't seem natural for some reason, but when like Robert Patrick did it in the T2 film, it came out feeling a bit more natural.
Yeah.
It's just for some reason, those voices coming out of Arnie's face, just like, oh, that doesn't sound right. I'm not sure if he's moving his lips correctly or whatever. It just didn't sound right.
Yeah, no, it didn't. I was like, what is that? The first time he did it, when he was pretending to be the cop, I was just like, what was that? They go, oh, he can mimic voices. So, of course, we know when she's talking to her mom. And I was like, don't tell them. Don't. And then she does it. And I was like, you stupid bitch, Sarah.
Oh, you know, your mom's no longer of this world.
Yeah.
I also think that the eventual copulation scene took me out of the film a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of action through and through, and they have to stop to justify John Connor being born, I guess.
Yeah.
So they have to have the scene where but I think that they could have, I know that they waited to the end of the scene to show the Terminator again. But I think they could have interspliced it, like gone back and forth with a little bit of like, okay, here's the scene that's happening of them, you know, I don't even know what you'd call it. I want to say something nice and level, like making love, but that's not what that was. They were doing something out of just the stress of the moment. It's like, okay, we need to comfort each other, so let's. He just said he's loved me for a very long time. He had a picture that he memorized from John.
Yeah.
Which he, I guess, fell in love with. First of all, for anybody rational, that's a red flag. I've had a picture of you for a very long time, and I've memorized every bit of it, and I fell in love with you. I don't think that's as romantic as he needed it to sound, but it worked.
No. Yeah. And he's like, I shouldn't have said that.
Like, I really shouldn't have said that. I sounded really fucking creepy right there. Oh.
But you know what? It did it for her.
It worked for her. Kind of worked with, she was kind of naive most of the movie anyway.
Yeah.
She didn't really start coming into her own until the end. And I know that I had a point. Oh, the point was that they should have interspliced it with scenes of the Terminator basically pursuing them, like coming to get them.
I think so too.
But I think the scene was a bit too long, a little bit too dramatic for the very middle of the movie like it was. And it just took me out of the movie for a couple minutes. It took me a few minutes to get back into feeling the chase.
Yeah. Obviously, I hadn't seen it before. We knew it was coming because I knew Kyle wasn't in the next one. So we're like, okay, they have to do it at some point because he's the dad. So after he said that, we're like, oh, here it comes.
He had such an anticlimactic death, too.
Yeah. Well, okay, so speaking of the death scene there, so he's dead, and then she's injured, and she's crawling, and then the Terminator is still alive, and he's crawling, and then she smushes him with the machine. Now, could you imagine being the employee that comes the next day, and you see this metal arm sticking out of a machine? Like, how creepy would that be for you?
I mean, does that go into an evidence locker? Do they need to just scoop that up? Like, okay, none of that provides an explanation for what's going on. They just took her away.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's body parts other places.
This is why I feel like she should have had a bit more credibility in the film.
Yeah.
Like, people should have believed her a little bit more. Because obviously, by the end, you have all sorts of parts of this cybernetic creature made of possibly things that they have never seen before.
Yeah.
And because of this thing being sent back, I don't know who ended up with it. Obviously, it's not the local police force, because by the second movie, they've dropped something. Sorry.
How dare you?
Well, it happened. They're treating her like none of that original film happened. Like, there was nothing in that compactor.
Yeah.
Like, nobody had found anything. It's just her friend whoever it is, Kyle is dead. They tote him off. Obviously, they're not going to be able to find any information on him because he's from several decades into their future.
Yeah.
It's just a little, they had to stretch a few things to keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like, why wouldn't they believe her? Do you think that this woman who's a waitress has been, excuse you, has been working on this metal creature at home just to fuck with people? Like,
right. It's like she left the building and then they ignored the evidence of what actually happened.
Yeah.
I apologize for the sound. So I have gotten to the point where I'm introducing my own podcast as coming from the downtown Haverhill drag strip, because so many people have very loud cars, motorcycles, all sorts of vehicles that go by this place. And I don't have the proper soundproofing because I live in an apartment with paper thin walls right on the main street.
It's cool. So, I have 2 dogs that go crazy sometimes, so
I apologize for what I can only imagine was, it probably sounded to you a little weird, but it sounded to me like a group of Harley Davidsons going by.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a really loud truck. It was just like...
It was a motorcycle. I just couldn't tell what kind. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I love the movie as a whole. But if you sit down and you start like picking apart little things, like how did this work? How was this supposed to have worked? Maybe they weren't thinking of having like a sequel at one point, and so they didn't really try to hold everything together. They just wanted to have a good, fun story. And now they're like, okay, we're going to do a Terminator 2. Okay, well, a lot of the things in your new Terminator movie do not fall into place with the original.
Yeah.
There are definitely some timeline issues here.
Yeah, and when it comes to number 2, I'm pretty sure that's the one I've seen the most. It could be
That's
3.
one everybody's seen the most.
But I'm pretty sure it's 2 that I've seen the most. And I love the liquid guy, even though he's evil.
Robert Patrick.
Yeah. But that's my favorite. And I want to say I saw it in theaters. I cannot remember. It's been a long time. So I'm excited to see that one because this one was not what I was expecting, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I thought that one was this one and I just was all wrong.
I mean, it was good for a sci-fi based horror back in the 80s.
Yeah. You know,
Really
I will say it did give you a lot of that horror movie feel with the music. So I enjoyed that. That was interesting because you don't normally have that in sci-fi movies. And so that was good.
That kind of established Arnold Schwarzenegger as a sci-fi actor or an action film actor.
Yeah.
I know that he's been in quite a few things since then, but this film was, I guess, really the launching pad for a lot of his later very popular performances. And maybe, to a lesser extent, some of his comedic performances. Because there's some things in here that he did that you couldn't help but laugh at.
True.
He kind of plays that up a little bit more in the second Terminator movie, but...
Well, we get to hear him talk more. You know, this one, it was just a few words every now and then.
Well, in the second movie, he's the living, breathing, cybernetic protector of John Connor.
Yeah.
After everything that happened in this movie, is it a wonder she reacted the way that she did in the second film?
Right.
Oh, you know what? That actually reminds me. So he tossed. I've got the movie playing in the background here.
Uh-huh.
So he tossed several of those pipe bombs at the Terminator, trying to get him to come off basically get blown off his bike.
Yeah.
Sarah eventually gets him off of the bike by both sideswiping him with the truck, but then simultaneously flipping the truck and putting both her and Kyle out of commission for a few minutes.
Right.
He uses a second pipe bomb to blow up the gasoline truck that goes after them. And so I'm wondering what distance you have to be. First of all, he's not driving all that fast. He's going after her in a truck, and she's able to outrun him for the most part.
Right.
But secondly, where we go back and forth to watching the wick in the back of the truck slowly going down. He's got it in the back end of the truck. It blows up and takes out the entire gasoline truck.
Yeah.
Where she is able to miraculously dive behind what looks like a set trailer.
Mm.
And I'm wondering, A, what kind of shrapnel can that trailer itself take before being kind of torn through? And B, how is she able to dive out of the way of the force of that particular explosion?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Kyle jumps into what are those called?
He jumped into a trash bin.
Yeah, a trash bin.
Kind of hid in the dumpster.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. They're metal.
That's a great idea, but she just dove behind a trailer, which is notoriously, it has thin walls.
Yeah.
These things are not built for impact.
Well, it's not like she knew that was going to happen. She's like, well, this is it. I got to try something.
Okay, I think I used the word jump generously. She kind of dramatically or melodramatically flops against one wall and then slides behind the other side.
Well, that's okay. When he takes out the driver of the truck, you see it from far away, and he just pushes him on the ground, but not even forcefully. He just kind of was like, meh. And I was like, really? That's it? Now we cut between the scenes because you see him go to the guy, and then we see, I'm pretty sure, Sarah running, and then we come back and you just see him like push him. But I was like, seriously, that's how we're gonna get the truck, just by pushing this guy out of the way.
Yeah, I imagine that there were like 5 or 6 different takes where Arnold's just yelling at the guy, I shoved you, fall down correctly. Why do you not fall down right? I shove you, you fall down hard. You know?
Get down.
Fall on the ground right.
So after Arnold was hurt, we were like, I need to go to the ER. We were doing all sorts of different Arnold voices. It was fun.
And this is now where Arnold is no longer Arnold. He is just the skeleton.
Yeah.
They didn't even need him for the end of the movie.
Yeah. We're like, okay, the skeleton, I guess, gets injured a little bit, but he was walking so smoothly, but like a robot before when he was in the Arnold body. But then as soon as he's out of the body, he's walking like real worsely mechanical. And my sister's like, well, it was injured. I was like, I don't think so.
I'm assuming this is because like certain mechanisms or bits of hydraulic were damaged in the explosion. So not everything functioned correctly at that point. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt with this.
Yeah.
Because there's certain points where Arnold kind of walked around like a bit of a robot.
Yeah.
And there's certain points where he literally just rushed around and looked like a normal human being trying to basically shove people out of the way. Like, especially when he went to find the phone book for the first time. He just got out of that car and rushed around the car, walked up without any thought to the fact that he's supposed to be some sort of robot cyborg thing.
Yeah.
Put no effort into that whatsoever. Just shoves the guy out of the way. It's like, oh, what are you doing, asshole?
Yeah, well, I will say it was fun watching, like, we have Kyle and Sarah in one car driving frantically around. And then you have Arnold. He looks like he's out for a Sunday drive. He's just like, la, 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 la. Determined, but not like real rushing. Like he didn't look like he was speeding too much to try and find them, but he can always find them.
Yeah, there's areas where he rushes, and there's areas where he just goes with a very methodical determination. It's just slow and methodical.
You know, I found how you can get away from a psycho killer like that. So he sees you driving down the road going east, right? Well,
right.
He's behind you enough that you could have then turned on the next street that you wanted to and go down that street and then start going the opposite direction. He would never know. Voila. You evaded the psycho killer. No one ever does that. They just keep going down the same street all the time.
No, just keep going. Run faster. If we go just a little bit faster, and then they match speed. If we go just a little bit faster, and then they match speed again.
Yeah.
We lost them, and then somehow they end up in front of them.
Yeah. You could have just gone the other direction after him seeing you go the other way. Ta-da.
It's a good idea if they'd ever implement it.
But they never do. Obviously, it's a movie and it's planned out and they need them to go that way. But still.
It would be less dramatic and that would make the film a little bit more comedic, wouldn't it?
Yeah. In real life, folks, if someone's chasing you, just turn the corner, go a different way if you're ahead of them enough.
Yeah. I don't know.
I will say it was a lot easier to steal cars back in 1984 because they went through a lot of vehicles.
Well, I mean, all you got to do is hotwire a car back then. It's a lot more complicated now with everything going on.
Unless it's a Kia.
Well, some cars are easier to break into than others, unfortunately.
Apparently, some insurances won't cover Kias of certain models because of that.
too easy to steal. Sorry, we're not going to cover this. Then again, I mean, whose entire auto theft career revolves around stealing Kias?
Yeah, they're not that fancy. I don't know why.
The Kias are too easily stolen. We're not going to insure you. There's this guy out there. There's an entire like underworld of people just stealing Kias because everybody wants a Kia.
I'm glad that the whole stealing the oh god, what is that called? The thing under the car has stopped mostly. The catalytic converter.
Okay.
Because that was getting crazy. I don't know if it was crazy in Massachusetts, but it was insane here in Texas. And
people stealing the catalytic converters?
Yeah.
Apparently there's like a certain amount of, is it platinum in a catalytic converter?
Yeah.
I think that's what they're looking for. They were mining for that stuff. Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, I work in claims, auto claims, and we were getting so many of those, and it stopped. We even had a girl who worked with us who got her stolen in our parking lot while she was at work.
Big thing that happens around here and in Georgia is there's a rash of people, and I'm going to give you the one from Georgia. This is a fun story. There's this guy who was going around and stealing copper from construction sites. So basically they'd have like things that they were doing to wire the walls, and this guy was ripping out all the wiring and stealing, you know, spools of copper and stuff like that. He got caught, not because he stole the copper, but because he stole manhole covers. So I guess they had like, I don't know if you'd call them manhole covers, but they were plates or covers that you would put over like the area where you're able to turn off and on your water from the street.
Yeah.
And so he was stealing those, but wasn't thinking about the fact that now, number one, they have the name of the company on them that places them down. It's town owned.
Uh-huh.
And that each manhole cover or cover for those units, they're numbered.
Uh-huh.
And so when he tried to turn them in to get money for them at the local recycling plant, he started like unloading everything. And as he's leaving, they're like, oh yeah, give us just a couple minutes. Our machine's kind of giving us a couple of hiccups here. We'll get you your money in a second. We'll process everything through. Because they weigh you going in and then they weigh you coming out. And based off of what each individual station tells you they pay you. Well, they knew when he offloaded those covers that was illegal.
Yeah.
That he was basically selling scrap metal that he wasn't supposed to, and they called the cops on him. So he was met and arrested for all the local thefts.
Well, good. I hate these. Just
like, that was probably he would have gotten away with it if it was just the copper, but the fact that he decided to take those covers is what screwed him.
That is our judicial system in the works there. I like that.
That's our dumb criminals for the episode, I guess.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see number 2. Because, again, I thought 1 was 2, and I apparently put 1. I never saw it. So there we are. But if you had to rate this one, what would you rate it?
Okay. If I had to rate this one, I have 2 mental ratings for it in my head.
Okay.
So we go. What's your scale? I keep forgetting. Is it like a 1 to 10 or is it 1 to 5?
Yeah, 1
to 10.
1 to 10.
Okay. So I have like a nostalgic rating for it because I have seen it before. Putting it up against like films right now, it would get a lower rating. Obviously. Because there's just a lot of things based off of having watched the entire franchise that just didn't feel like it fit. And it felt like they weren't really trying to build a franchise with this. But I won't give you that rating because I would give it a much lower rating at that point. I would say I would give this probably about for the 80s films that came out at the time, just for a nostalgia rating in general, I would give this a solid 7 unnecessary bandanas.
I like that.
Yeah.
I will
That's my rating.
give it a 6 out of 10. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I enjoyed it. Obviously, it didn't really fill in stuff for me. That's for like the next set of movies, but it did fill in things when people would talk about this movie, because I was always like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've seen those movies and I'm like, maybe I just didn't pay attention to it. Because I had no idea that any of that existed. To me, Edward Furlong was the first in the first movie. And so this is all new to me. I did enjoy it. I wish that they, I don't know if I wish they would do number 1 again and fix the animatronics, but I could see where if someone did that, it would be a high scene movie and would bring in a lot of money.
Yeah, like some of that stop motion stuff at the end and the animatronic scenes in front of the mirror could have been digitally remastered. Maybe made some of the effects could have been taken from being practical into being digital effects.
Yeah. Just like number 2, when he becomes liquid, how cool would that look nowadays?
That is fair. I think they were just traipsing into new technology for that too.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that and judge it.
I feel like I rated this 7 because I know that almost every other Terminator movie I rate below this, except for Terminator 2.
Yeah.
The Terminator 2 one would be rated above this. But all the other films were well below this film. And I love how the end of the film, even though they couldn't afford a location, I'm guessing, and she's just driving off into what I'm assuming is just painted mountains.
Yeah. You know,
painted snow-capped mountains in the middle of, I'm guessing, was this supposed to be Mexico?
I think so. Or it could have been somewhere in California, close to the border.
Yeah, I mean, everything in that one area was all in Spanish.
Yeah.
At that place.
Well, so where can people find you if they want to check out your podcast?
Currently, our podcast is kind of in flux. We're working towards getting ourselves back up and running due to summer having been very busy for all parties involved. But currently, we are up on Spotify. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on the Twitter /X. I still don't want to call it X. I like Twitter. I don't mind sending out tweets. I don't know what the heck you're sending out on X. You're just sending X's.
Yeah.
But we're up. We're pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. We're up and running. The only places we're not right now are anything involving video, which may get corrected at some time in the future, but we're just not a video podcast right now.
Yeah, we aren't either. I don't need my mug out there.
I'm sure we'll get there eventually. It's been 6 years. It should happen within the next 20, right? That's pretty much everywhere you can find us.
We're going on 4 years, and 6 is a lot more.
That's a lot of content right there. We just knocked off our 200th episode, which I'm supposed to hopefully put out later. Well, considering when this is coming out, this will be coming out in October. It should have come out several months ago.
Well,
I just gave away the goat here that we're definitely pre-recording this because I said, hey, the summer was very busy for us.
That's okay. I don't care. They know. people record early. I've never understood why podcasts are like, well, we don't want to tell you this, but we're pre-recording this. Well, of course you are. Like, is it that big of a deal? TV shows do it.
If you pop onto our Facebook page, and this is like one of the first like year or two, we did several like live recordings. And then that day released the episode as a podcast. So we would do like Facebook live streams. We were all gathered in the same house though.
Yeah.
So it's not that way anymore. So the live streams have fallen to the wayside.
Yeah. There's been like less than a 24-hour turnaround that I've done for podcasts, but never live.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do like some live things from different houses, but Facebook's live streaming platform, when you're trying to like feed in from other people, it's wonky as hell. You have to have an absolutely crystal clear Wi-Fi set up to be able to do anything, and most of our people live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's like people would drop out, and then it's like, okay, well, what do? We keep talking, because if we try, they can't come back in the middle of a live stream. It doesn't work that way. Oh, well.
All right, guys. Well, you know where to find us. Follow us, like us, give some stars, rate us. Send us an email on what your favorite Terminator movie is. And until next time, bye.
This episode was produced by Two Chicks Talkin Flicks. Music was produced by Michael Giovanni. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to be a part of the show, have a movie suggestion, or just want to give us some love, you can email us at twochickstalkinflicks@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Toodles.